Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we are discussing the Saints of the Emperor and his displays of power across the galaxy. I'll begin by throwing out a general spoiler warning to begin here, as obviously I will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe. So you have been warned, but with that said, let's waste no time and just jump straight in. Now, across the Imperium of Mankind, there are many names revered as Saints of the Emperor. Most often loyal servants of the ecclesiarchy, who spent their lives in devotion and service. Fabled names of the Orders of the Sisterhood, names that echo in history. However, today we're going to be discussing the more current saints. The sightings and examples across the lore of the Emperor's power. The individuals seemingly graced by the God Emperor himself. Now, since the fall of Cadia, the explosion of the Great Rift and the Psychic Awakening, we appear to be truly within an era of the gods, as faith becomes a very potent weapon. As such, there are countless sightings of the Emperor's power and his so-called grace occurring. Perhaps the top of the list for me would be the Saint of Tyros, which occurred during the second installment of the Dark Imperium trilogy, Plague War. Now, this occurrence is particularly notable, as it was one that the Lord Commander Rabute Guilliman encountered himself, arriving to the Parmenio system within Ultramar to face his brother Mortarion. This particular saint was a young girl who, in her own words, was possessed or blessed with the Emperor's power, that he moved through her, and that he, assumingly the Emperor, wanted to help the Primarch. The Imperial authorities at one point had the girl in custody, and there was the inevitable conflict of belief between whether she was a rogue psyker or a true saint. Yet despite being warded by anti-psyker hexagrammic chains, and having a Sister of Silence guarding her, the girl knew things that should be impossible for her to know, such as reading the minds of those present, and asking about the state of the war. And she showed no discomfort from the chains, or the Silent Sister's presence, which a psyker absolutely should have. And later, when a Sister of Battle was attempting to free the girl, fighting the Guardian Sister of Silence, the Emperor's power seemingly returned, commanding an end to the fight, effortlessly burning off the chains. And when the saint was taken to the site of the battle, as Guilliman attempted to face Mortarion, which by the way the girl somehow directed the Sororitas to, it was the girl who saved Guilliman's life. Her power froze Mortarion as he was about to decapitate the bound and defenseless Guilliman. And from the girl a light spread out across the entire battlefield, instantly banishing all the lesser demons present, and rocking the greater ones painfully, as a cry of anathema spread throughout them all, obviously renowned as the demon's term for the Master of Mankind. And even from Tribune Colquhoun himself, the custodian assigned to overwatch Guilliman, we saw from his point of view the girl's eyes glowing golden, a term described as old as time. The sight so striking, so clear, even Colquhoun, a custodian, whispered, "My lord." For surely it could be no other power than the Emperor. And the whole ordeal overwhelmed the girl's body, dying in the aftermath, though with her final words she told Guilliman himself that he looks like him. a storyline that's still truly yet to unravel. But undoubtedly so far, the most prominent saint sighting of the current age for me. Undoubtedly the most pivotal. No, this girl wasn't officially named a saint by the ecclesiarchy, but those present upon the world knew exactly what they were witnessing. And dare I say, it was a far more powerful display than even the legendary Celestine could ever provide. Now, a particular favourite of mine, and undoubtedly a far lesser known one, comes from the Adepta Sororitas novel, The Book of Martyrs, with the story The Martyrdom of Sister Anarchia. Here the story revolves around the Tau interrogating a captured sister regarding one of these Emperor's Powers sightings, with a sister known to the Sororitas as the Living Saint, the Saint of Swords, Nixia Imeldus. Now, we don't know as much about this particular saint, but we do know she was active upon the world of Mantra Primal. Here the Order of Our Martyred Lady engaged the forces of the Tau within the toxic swamps of the northern continent. And as you'd expect, the fighting was harsh and brutal, visibility low, and both sides having to fight their way through the quagmire. It even got to the lengths the sisters couldn't remove their helms for fear of Tau marksmen hidden amongst the gloom. And there was one particular battle where a force led by Sister Anarchia were becoming overwhelmed by the Tau battlesuits, things looking grim, until the arrival of the Saint of Swords. A third emerged as they took position. She was shorter by a head, her hair tousled and cropped, a powered blade held lightly at her side. Behind her, a Xeno warsuit lay cloven in two, rippling cables of lightning playing across what remained of its blasphemous force field. With a sharp intake of breath, Anarchia realised the newcomer had forsaken her helm. But that was not the strangest thing about her. Where her bodyguards were covered head to toe in swamp muck, the swordswoman was spotless, her armour burnished and clean, without so much as a single droplet of water upon her, even as she splashed through the mire. Now again, we don't know much about this particular saint, but she would move at twice the speed of the other sisters through the swamp, and when caught in an explosion, rather than being burned and slain by the fire, she was completely unharmed, the fire swirling all around her instead, deflecting even direct flame and plasma shots from the enemy, as her sword sliced through their armoured warsuits as if they were nothing. So it's easy to see why the Tau took such an interest in this occurrence. Though we don't get the golden light of the Emperor here, the feat speaks for itself, easily describing why she was declared as one of his saints. Now, undoubtedly one of the most recent occurrences is from the very recent novel Demon Breaker, which I read earlier this week. So obviously again, spoiler warning here. Though at this point not termed a saint specifically, Sister Aveline of the Order of the Sacred Rose took up the fabled sword of Saint Arabella in combat against the forces of Khorne, predominantly one of his mighty bloodthirsters. And in giving her life against the demon, she was filled with a blinding light, a burning power, and she was found in the aftermath of the battle, still alive, the sole survivor. Her armour pristine, with her body bearing no wounds, save a scarred missing eye. And when she spoke, the voice of a dozen others seemingly spoke as one. And thus she was declared Demon Breaker. Now, whether this is Saint Arabella living through her, or some fusing of souls into her body, We don't truly know for sure, though there are some possible clues. But it's clear this demon breaker is regarded as a miracle of the God Emperor. And so she is a saint, in all but name. Another showing of the Emperor's blessing, while again not technically a saint, was from the novel Shroud of Night, with the Beacon of Sudreka. A man named Caleb, who became a living beacon of the Emperor's power, infused with his golden light, even burning away his own eyes. Now he became the focus of a chaos invasion, with the Emperor even sending Saint Celestine to assist him. However, ultimately he was last seen within the possession of an Alpha Legion warband, who, it has to be said, the Emperor instructed Celestine to let take him, rather than let the beacon being destroyed by the forces of Khorne. So this one is most definitely interesting. However, as of yet we have had no further sightings. And speaking of Celestine, we have the most famous saint herself, who has given thousands of years and countless of lives in service of the Emperor. Her tale a fairly similar one to those we have heard before, somehow surviving death in a battle with no visible wounds. Celestine became a rallying point for her fellow sisters of the Martyred Lady, and after visiting St. Catherine's crypt alone, she emerged a day later, clad in her armour and wielding the Ardent Blade, promptly being declared a living saint. And unlike every other saint, we have actually seen what transpires for Celestine every time she dies, awakening within the warp, without memory, only to fight her way back to the land of the living once again. She is undoubtedly the most seen and most famous of the Emperor's saints, taking part in legendary encounters such as the Fall of Cadia, and even being present at Rabute Gilliman's resurrection. And we have seen, thanks to novels such as Shroud of Night, that Celestine does indeed get guided by visions from the Emperor. So you can rest assured where Celestine walks, the God Emperor is most assuredly watching. And the last saint for today, we have Ephrael Stern, the so-called heretic saint. Though her origins are a little different, receiving her power through the souls of a lost and destroyed convent, Stern does still appear to be guided by the Emperor, despite being hunted by the Inquisition over recent years. Within the novel Ephrael Stern the Heretic Saint, we saw clearly the Emperor seemingly communing with her across the Great Rift. Stern gasped as the vision began. It started with light, gold and shimmering. It limed the edges of everything around her, and it came from her, from deep inside, from her soul, from its very core. No, that was wrong. The source was something even more profound. It spoke to her soul. The light grew, and with it came thunder, the thunder of the birth and death of stars. The light turned into the lighting of nebulae, and it was still gold, purest gold, the gold of a throne. The thunder was a voice too great for sound, too vast for words, though words formed in her mind, words placed by a force that was sanctity itself. Be thou my sword. The thunder was in her. She was the thunder. She was the lightning. This was the decree of that great will. Just as Celestine is guided by the Emperor in visions, so too appears to be Ephrael Stern. And so it's undoubted, despite a very different founding, She classifies as a saint, if not yet officially recognised as one. And these are just a small token of the events erupting across the galaxy, of individuals being overcome by the Emperor's power. I mean, it has to be said, we've even seen Guilliman himself appear to be healed and restored by it, though the facts and truth of that matter remain to be revealed. However, it was so undeniable, it has led Guilliman to face the truth of his father working across the galaxy. Though it is most often labelled as psychic power, of unsanctioned psychers acting across the galaxy, somehow fueled by their faith, it's clear that that can't account for everything, for even just the occurrences we have discussed today, for a custodian feeling the presence of the Emperor, for a girl telling Guilliman he looks like him, being unaffected by anti-psyker forces, and for saints returning from death, guided by his visions, for Guilliman himself being restored. Whether these saints are truly chosen by the Emperor, or a mere happenstance of faith, it is simply undeniable he is acting through them, in some manner or another. But as always everyone, what do you think? What do you think the truth of these saints really is? Are they unsanctioned psychers? Or is it far more than that? That it's clear some semblance of what the Emperor's become is acting through his people? Why are more and more miracles appearing across the galaxy? And does it in some way mean the Emperor is becoming more powerful? And is there a difference between what we see of, say, Celestine, a so-called official saint, and that of the Saint of Tyros, or the Beacon of Sidreka? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow, and if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.